You may think the birds in your yard barely notice you. You open the door, step outside, and they scatter. A few minutes later, they return. You fill the feeder, replace the water, sit quietly near the window, and eventually they seem to forget you are there. But something much stranger is happening. The birds around your home are not simply reacting to you in the moment. They are learning you. Every time you walk outside, every time you approach the feeder, every time you stop suddenly, look toward them, or make a certain sound, you are giving them information, and they are collecting it. You may have spent months thinking you were observing the birds in your yard, but what if they have been observing you just as carefully? There is a reason a bird can appear completely comfortable around your garden one minute and vanish the instant you step outside. It is not necessarily because it is afraid of humans, and it does not mean the bird has forgotten that you provide food or water. It means its brain is constantly asking one question: what happens next? For a small wild animal, predicting what happens next can be the difference between wasting precious energy and surviving another day. A bird cannot afford to assume that every movement is harmless. It has to make decisions quickly, often before it has enough information to know exactly what is happening. So when you walk into your yard, the bird is not thinking about whether you are a good person. It is evaluating movement, distance, direction, speed, posture, gaze, sound, and previous experience. And the most fascinating part is that your history with that bird can gradually change the answer. Think about what happens when you approach a feeder. You probably walk directly toward it. You know where you're going. You may look at the birds because you want to see them. You may slow down when you notice one watching you. You may even stop and stare because you are trying to get a better look. From your perspective, this is completely harmless. But from the bird's perspective, several important signals have just appeared at the same time. A large animal is moving directly toward it. The animal is looking at it. The distance is shrinking. And the animal's next movement cannot yet be predicted. None of these signals proves that an attack is coming. But the bird does not need proof. It needs enough information to decide whether staying is worth the risk. This is where something called flight initiation distance becomes important. Animals tend to have a point at which the risk of remaining in place becomes greater than the cost of escaping. That distance is not fixed. It can change depending on the environment, the animal's previous experiences, how quickly the threat approaches, and whether the threat behaves predictably. In other words, the bird is constantly recalculating. You step closer, the calculation changes. You stop, it changes again. You look away, the calculation changes again. You take another step. Suddenly, the safest decision is obvious. The bird is gone. But here's where this gets interesting, because the bird that flew away today may not fly away tomorrow. Wild birds are capable of habituation. When an animal repeatedly encounters something that appears threatening but consistently produces no harm, its response can gradually become weaker. The animal is not necessarily becoming tame. It is learning that a particular stimulus may not require the same level of defensive reaction every time. This is an incredibly important distinction. The bird does not need to love you. It does not need to understand that you are the person who fills the feeder. It only needs enough evidence to decide that your presence usually ends without danger. And that means something you do every day could be quietly changing the bird's behavior without you realizing it. Imagine that every morning you open the same door at roughly the same time. You walk along the same path, you stop in the same place, you fill the same feeder, you refill the same water, you stay for a few minutes and then go back inside. From your perspective, this is simply routine, but to the birds, routine is information. After enough repetitions, your behavior becomes easier to predict. And predictability is extremely valuable to a wild animal. The bird begins to learn that the opening of that door does not always mean danger. The sound of your footsteps does not always mean danger. Your movement across the garden does not always lead to pursuit. Your presence becomes part of the background pattern of the environment. And this leads to one of the strangest things you can discover in your own backyard. The birds may start responding to your arrival before you even see them. They can learn sounds associated with your routine. The door opening, footsteps on a particular surface, the sound of a feeder being filled, your voice, the rhythm of your movements. None of these sounds necessarily identifies you with absolute certainty, but together they form a pattern. And birds are extraordinarily sensitive to patterns. Their survival depends on detecting changes in their surroundings. A sudden movement in the bushes can matter. A new sound can matter. An unusual shadow can matter. A familiar sound occurring in a familiar sequence can mean something completely different. This is why unpredictability can make you more alarming than you intend to be. Imagine two people entering the same garden. One walks slowly along the same path every morning, rarely approaches the birds directly, and behaves in almost exactly the same way every time. The other enters suddenly, moves quickly, changes direction frequently, stops unexpectedly, and occasionally walks straight toward the feeder. To a human, both people are simply walking around a garden. To a bird, they are not necessarily equivalent. One is predictable, the other is difficult to read. And when an animal cannot predict what a large moving object will do next, caution becomes the safer option. This may explain something you've probably noticed. Sometimes you can sit outside for 20 minutes and the birds eventually return. But the moment you stand up, they disappear again. Why? Because the situation changed. While you were sitting still, you became predictable. Your body stopped moving. Your position remained constant. Your behavior was easy to understand. The birds could continue feeding while keeping an eye on you. Then you stood. Suddenly, the large object that had been stationary for 20 minutes changed shape, changed height, and began moving. The birds did not necessarily decide that you had become dangerous. They simply did not know what the new movement meant. And that distinction is everything. There is another signal that humans often underestimate: your gaze. When you look directly at a bird, you are doing exactly what you want to do. You are watching it. You are admiring it. You are trying to understand what it is doing. But a bird has no way of knowing your intention. It only knows that your eyes are directed toward it. For many animals, direct attention from a potential predator is a meaningful signal. Birds can respond differently, depending on whether a person is looking directly at them or looking elsewhere. That means the simple act of staring at a bird can change its perception of the situation. So if you have ever wondered why a bird seems comfortable until you look directly at it, you may have been watching this process happen in real time. You look, the bird looks back, you hold its gaze, it waits, then it disappears. From your perspective, nothing happened. From the bird's perspective, something very important happened. It received information. But now comes the part that changes the entire story. Because the birds are not only learning whether you are dangerous, they may also be learning that you are useful. Food, water, and shelter create powerful associations. If your presence repeatedly occurs around resources and does not result in harm, the bird's overall assessment of you can change. You become part of the environment it understands, not a friend, not a pet, not a human it is emotionally bonded with in the way we understand friendship. Something much more interesting. a predictable feature of its world. And once you become predictable, the bird can spend less energy worrying about you. That matters because survival is expensive. Flying away costs energy. Searching for a new feeding location costs energy. Remaining constantly alert costs energy. Every unnecessary escape has a price. So a bird that can accurately distinguish between a real threat and something harmless has an enormous advantage. This is why the birds that seem unusually comfortable around people are not necessarily foolish or fearless. In many cases, they may simply have more information. They have encountered humans before. They have learned which humans approach them. They have learned which humans ignore them. They have learned which places are dangerous and which places are consistently safe. And that means your backyard may be teaching birds something every single day. But there is a darker side to this learning. Birds can learn danger too, and danger can be learned quickly. A sudden chase, a predator appearing near the feeder, a violent movement at a window, a person running toward the birds, a pet rushing into the garden. Even one frightening event can change how birds respond to a location. This is why trust, if we want to use that human word, is not a straight line. You may spend weeks behaving predictably and then create one frightening event without intending to. The birds disappear. You wonder what happened. You assume they have forgotten you. They probably have not. They have simply received new information. And this is one of the most important things to understand about wild animals. Their brains are not designed to reward you for having good intentions. They are designed to keep them alive. A bird does not think, "That human has been kind to me for 3 weeks, so I will ignore this sudden movement." It thinks, in effect, "Something changed. Recalculate." That is why patience matters so much. If the birds suddenly scatter when you step outside, don't chase them. Don't follow them. Don't try to prove that you are harmless by moving closer. Give them the one thing they need most from you: predictability. Open the door. Move slowly. Keep your distance. Avoid walking directly toward them when you do not need to. Don't stare. Don't make sudden movements. Let them decide when they are comfortable enough to return. And then do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. Eventually, something subtle may happen. You will walk outside. The birds will notice, but they won't leave. Maybe one stays on a branch. Another continues feeding. Another watches you for a few seconds and then returns to what it was doing. That moment may feel insignificant. It isn't. It means the calculation may have changed. The bird has gathered enough evidence to make a different decision. And here's the part that most people miss. You may never know exactly when it happened. There is no dramatic moment when a wild bird decides, "I trust this person now." There is no ceremony, no obvious switch. Instead, the change appears in tiny behaviors. It stays 3 seconds longer, then 10. It lands a little closer. It returns a little sooner. It stops flying when you move your hand. It continues feeding while you are standing nearby. One day you realize that the birds are no longer reacting to your presence the way they used to, and you suddenly understand that something has been happening quietly for weeks. They have been updating their picture of you. But there is an even deeper possibility. The birds may not only be learning about you individually, social animals can also learn from one another. A bird observing another bird remain calm around a person may gain information from that interaction. Birds constantly monitor the behavior and alarm responses of other birds, because one individual's discovery can provide information to many others. That means your relationship with one bird can sometimes influence what other birds perceive about the same environment. One bird stays, Another watches, then another, and slowly, the entire atmosphere of the yard can change. Not because the birds have suddenly become tame, because the information has changed. You have become part of the landscape, and that is perhaps the strangest thing about watching birds in your own backyard. You think you are creating a place for them, but they are also creating a model of the place in their minds. They know where food appears. They know where water is. They know which branches offer safety. They know where danger tends to come from. They know which sounds are normal. And they are learning which sounds belong to you. They know what your movement looks like. They know how quickly you approach. They know whether you stop when they become nervous. They may even recognize that the sound of your arrival often predicts something useful. You are not invisible to them. You never were. So tomorrow, when you open your door and look across your yard, try something different. Don't immediately look for the birds. Don't walk toward them. Don't try to get closer. Just stand there. Let the garden continue around you. Listen. Watch the movement at the edges of your vision. Notice which birds remain. Notice which ones leave. Notice how long it takes before the first one returns. And most importantly, pay attention to the moment when nothing happens. Because eventually, that may become the most interesting moment of all. You step outside, the birds see you, and they stay. That tiny decision is the result of thousands of years of survival instinct, observation, memory, and learning. They are not ignoring you. They are calculating you. They are watching what you do. And every day, you are giving them another piece of information. So the next time a bird flies away from you, don't take it personally. It isn't rejecting you. It is surviving. And the next time it stays, don't assume it means the bird has stopped being wild. It may mean something far more fascinating. It may mean that, in the bird's constantly changing map of danger and safety, you have slowly moved somewhere new, from threat to uncertainty to predictable, and perhaps eventually to harmless. Birds in your yard have been watching you all along. The real question is not whether they notice you. The real question is this: what have you been teaching them about yourself? Tell me in the comments. Have the birds in your yard started behaving differently around you over time? Do they still fly away when you step outside? Or have you noticed them staying closer than they used to? I would love to know what is happening in your yard, because every garden tells a slightly different story. And sometimes, the most fascinating thing a wild bird can do is simply decide not to fly away.